I'm Samuel Carter, 72 years old, and I've seen things most folks can't imagine. Jungles swallowing men whole, gunfire that never stops ringing in your ears. But nothing, not one damn thing, prepared me for the humiliation of being shoved off a city bus on Oak Street at 8:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. My hands still sting from the pavement, but it's the sting in my chest that's worse. The kind that comes when the country you bled for treats you like garbage. The morning started simple enough. The sun was up, painting the cracked sidewalk gold, and I was headed to the community center, same as every week. My canvas bag, frayed at the edges, held my old platoon letters, yellowed pages I'd read to the kids to teach them about grit. My army cap, faded but proud, sat snug on my head, the embroidered eagle barely holding on after all these years. My cane tapped a steady rhythm as I shuffled to the bus stop, my knees groaning from decades of carrying too much weight, literal and otherwise. The bus pulled up, hissing like an angry cat, and I saw her, a young mother wrestling with a stroller, her toddler squirming like he'd just discovered rebellion. She looked frazzled, her eyes darting between the kid and the bus steps. I've been there, not with strollers, but with fear of failing someone who needs you. "Here, ma'am, let me give you a hand," I said, my voice rough from years of shouting over choppers. I steadied the stroller, ignoring the ache in my back as I lifted it onto the bus. The kid giggled, and I gave him a mock salute, my fingers stiff but steady. "Future general right there," I said, winking. The mother smiled, her shoulders easing. "Thank you, sir." Not many would stop to help. The other passengers nodded, some smiling, others just watching. For a moment I felt seen, not as a limping old man, but as someone who still had something to give. Then the conductor ruined it. Greg, his name tag read, a wiry guy with a face like he'd been chewing lemons all morning. "Move it, old man," he barked from the driver's seat. "You're holding up my schedule." His voice cut through the hum of the bus, sharp and mean. I froze, my hand halfway to my pocket for my bus pass. The mother flinched, clutching her kid closer. "Hold on, sir," I said, keeping my tone even, though my blood was starting to boil. "Just getting my pass." My fingers, knotted with arthritis, fumbled with the worn leather wallet. I pulled out my veteran's pass, the one I'd earned with sweat and scars. Greg leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he scanned my jacket, my cane, my cap. "You veterans always think you're special," he sneered, loud enough for everyone to hear. A woman in the back gasped, but the rest stayed silent, their eyes darting away like they were afraid to catch trouble. I felt the old anger rise, the kind that kept me alive in '68 when bullets flew. "This pass is valid," I said, holding it up, my voice steady but tight. "Check it." Greg didn't even glance at it. He stood, his frame looming over me, and snatched the pass from my hand. "Wrong pass," he said, tossing it back like it was trash. It hit my chest and fell to the floor. "Get off, or I'll make you." I bent to pick it up, my knees screaming, my pride screaming louder. "I'm not going anywhere," I said, straightening as best I could. "I paid my dues for this ride, more than you'll ever know." That's when he did it. Greg's hands shot out, shoving me hard in the chest. I stumbled backward, my cane slipping, and hit the sidewalk like a sack of flour. Pain exploded in my palms as they scraped the concrete, my bag splitting open, letters scattering like ghosts of my past. The bus doors slammed shut and Greg peeled away, the engine's roar drowning out the passengers' gasps. The mother's voice carried faintly, "That's not right." But the bus was gone, leaving me sprawled in the dust. My cap lay a few feet away next to a crumpled letter from my buddy Joe, who never made it home. I sat there breathing hard, the weight of every insult I'd ever swallowed crashing down. This wasn't just about a bus. This was about a system that chews up men like me and spits us out when we're too old to salute. A kid, maybe 20, knelt beside me, his phone still recording. "Sir, I got it all on video. This ain't okay." His eyes were wide, angry, like he'd just seen something he couldn't unsee. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. "Thanks, son," I managed, gathering my letters with shaking hands. The crowd at the stop stared, some with pity, some with discomfort, none stepping forward. I didn't blame them. People don't know what to do with a broken old soldier. I stood, my cane wobbling but holding me up just like it always had. The community center was a mile away and I started walking, each step a promise to myself. I'd faced worse than Greg. War, loss, nights when the nightmares wouldn't quit. But this? This was a betrayal of everything I'd fought for. My country owed me better, and I wasn't about to let this slide. What happened next changed everything. You won't want to miss how this unfolded. My boots hit the gravel outside the community center, each step a reminder of the pavement that bruised my hands an hour ago. I'm Samuel Carter, 72, a man who survived ambushes in Vietnam, but that bus conductor's shove on Oak Street cut deeper than any shrapnel. My scraped palms throbbed as I gripped my cane, but the real pain was the disrespect, a wound that festers when your own country turns its back on you. I was headed inside to talk to the kids, to pour what's left of my soul into stories of courage. But the world had other plans, and they were about to hit like a mortar round. The community center's brick walls, splashed with murals of soaring eagles and bright flowers, felt like a sanctuary. Inside, a dozen teenagers sprawled in plastic chairs, their eyes curious but restless. I adjusted my faded army cap, the eagle emblem frayed but proud, and started my talk. Back in '68, I said, my voice gravelly, we held the line because we believed in each other. I held up a yellowed letter from my buddy Joe, killed in a firefight. The kids leaned in, hooked. Mia, a sharp-eyed girl with a notebook, scribbled furiously. "Mr. Carter, how'd you keep going after losing so much?" she asked. I swallowed hard, the bus incident flashing in my mind. "You just do," I said, my hands shaking as I tucked the letter away. She noticed the cuts on my knuckles and frowned, but I waved it off. No need to burden her. Then the door burst open and Hank stormed in, all 6 feet of him, a former Marine with a beard like steel wool and a temper to match. "Sam, you see this?" He shoved his phone in my face, showing a video, my video. The kid from the bus stop, Jamal, had posted it online, and it was spreading like wildfire. The clip showed Greg, that smug conductor, shoving me to the ground, my letters scattering. Comments poured in. "Disgraceful. Honor our vets." But others stung worse. "Old man's faking it. Veterans just want handouts." My stomach churned. I'd seen hate before. Enemy fire, whispered slurs, but this was my city, my home, tearing me down. "Hank, I don't want a circus," I said, my voice low. He snorted. "This ain't about you, Sam. It's about every one of us who's been spit on." He was right, but doubt gnawed at me. Was I strong enough to fight this? At 72, with a limp and a heart full of ghosts, I wasn't sure. The kids overheard, their faces a mix of shock and anger. Mia stood up. "Mr. Carter, you're a hero. They can't do this." Her words hit hard, stirring something I thought I'd lost, defiance. Outside, trouble was brewing faster than a summer storm. Jamal's video had reached the transit authority, and Greg, the conductor, was called into their office. I didn't know it then, but he was spinning lies thicker than jungle vines. "That old man was disruptive," he told his supervisor, Carla, a woman with a clipboard and a knack for dodging accountability. "Probably not even a real vet." Carla, more worried about headlines than justice, hissed, "Fix this, Greg. We can't have a PR mess." So Greg, instead of owning up, fed a twisted story to a local blogger known for stirring up trouble. By noon, posts were circulating. "Veteran causes chaos on bus." My name was dragged through the mud, and I didn't even know it yet. Back at the center, Hank rallied the other veterans, guys like me, worn but unbowed. "We're going to the transit office, Sam," he said, his eyes blazing. "Demand answers." I hesitated, my old fears creeping in. I just wanted to help that mother, not start a war. Hank clapped my shoulder hard. "You didn't start this, brother. They did." The kids chimed in, offering to make signs, their voices a chorus of support. I looked at Mia, her drawing of a soldier half finished on her notebook, and felt a spark. Maybe I wasn't alone. As we left, a crowd was forming outside. Folks from the neighborhood, some holding signs that read, "Respect our vets," others muttering about troublemakers. A news van screeched up, and a reporter, all hairspray and ambition, shoved a microphone in my face. "Mr. Carter, they're saying you faked your veteran status. What's your response?" My blood boiled, but I kept my cool. "I carried my platoon's wounded through hell in '68, I said, my voice steady. "I don't need to prove that to you or anyone." The crowd murmured, some cheering, others skeptical. I felt exposed, like I was back in the jungle, every eye a potential sniper. Then a black car rolled up, sleek as a panther. A man stepped out, his military uniform crisp, his chest heavy with medals. He moved with the kind of authority that quiets a room. I didn't know who he was, but his eyes locked onto mine, and for a second, I felt like I was 19 again, standing tall before a mission. The reporter pivoted to him, but he waved her off, his focus on me. The air crackled with something big, something I couldn't name but could feel in my bones. This is the tipping point. Everything you've been waiting for is right here. Stay to see how I put them all in their place. I'm Samuel Carter, 72, a Vietnam vet who's seen enough battles to know when one's brewing. But standing outside the community center, my scraped hands still raw from that bus conductor's shove, I wasn't ready for the fight that found me. The air was thick with tension, signs waving, voices shouting, and a news van's lights glaring like a spotlight on my soul. Then that black car rolled up, and out stepped a man in a uniform so sharp it could cut glass. His metals gleamed, his eyes locked on mine, and I felt it. A shift, like the ground before a quake. I didn't know it yet, but I was about to take back the respect I'd been denied. The man introduced himself as General Marcus Reed, a name that carried weight, like a tank rolling into a firefight. He was a decorated officer, now on the city's Veteran Affairs Board, and his presence silenced the crowd. "Mr. Carter," he said, his voice deep as a drum, "I saw the video. No soldier gets treated like that on my watch." My throat tightened. I'd spent years feeling invisible, a relic of a war nobody talked about. But this man saw me. The reporter, all hairspray and hustle, tried to butt in, but Reed shut her down. "This isn't your story," he said. "It's his." He pointed at me, and for the first time in years I stood a little taller, my cane feeling less like a crutch. Hank, my Marine buddy, and a handful of other veterans rallied behind me, their faces set like stone. "Let's go, Sam," Hank said, his beard bristling. "Time to settle this." We piled into a borrowed van, the kind with creaky seats and a faint smell of motor oil, and headed to the Transit Authority's office. The crowd followed, supporters with signs reading "Honor Our Vets," hecklers spitting venom about freeloaders. Their words stung, but I kept my eyes forward, clutching my bag of platoon letters like a shield. Inside, I was wrestling ghosts. Doubt, fear, the weight of being dismissed for too long. Could I really make them listen? The transit office was a gray box of a building, all fluorescent lights and stale coffee. Carla, the supervisor, stood behind a desk, her clipboard a flimsy defense. Greg, the conductor who'd shoved me, leaned against the wall, his arms crossed, his smirk faltering when he saw Reed. The general didn't waste time. "Your employee assaulted a veteran," he said, his voice slicing through the room. "Your system let it happen." He dropped a folder on the desk, printouts of Jamal's video now with thousands of shares, and witness statements from the bus passengers, including the mother I'd helped. I hadn't known she'd spoken up, but her words were there, clear as day. Mr. Carter was kind. The conductor was cruel. Carla stammered, her face flushed. "We're understaffed, budget cuts, you know how it is." Reed cut her off. "Excuses don't fix disrespect." He turned to Greg, whose eyes darted like a cornered animal. "You got anything to say?" Greg puffed out his chest, but his voice shook. "He was causing a scene holding up the line." I couldn't stay quiet. I stepped forward, my cane tapping the floor, my voice steady despite the fire in my chest. "I was helping a mother with her kid. You didn't even look at my pass. You saw an old man and decided I was nothing." The room went silent, Carla's clipboard trembling in her hands. Reed's eyes narrowed. "Effective immediately, this route is suspended. Your staff will be retrained on respect, or they're out." Carla's jaw dropped, but she nodded, knowing she was outmatched. Greg's face turned red, his fists clenched, but he said nothing. I looked at him, not with anger, but with something heavier. Pity. He was a product of a system that taught him to dismiss men like me, but that didn't excuse him. Outside, the crowd erupted, cheers from supporters, silence from the hecklers who slunk away like shadows. The news van captured it all, the reporter now framing it as a victory for veterans. Social media buzzed, posts calling for respect flooding in, sparked by that one video. But I didn't feel like a hero. I felt raw, exposed, like I'd just run through a minefield and barely made it out. Reed pulled me aside, his hand firm on my shoulder. "You reminded us what we're fighting for, soldier," he said. I swallowed hard, tears stinging my eyes. "Just doing my duty, sir." Back at the community center, the kids were waiting. Mia ran up, hugging me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. She handed me a drawing, a soldier standing tall labeled hero. The other teens clapped, their voices a chorus of pride. Hank grinned, clapping my back. "You started something big, Sam." I shook my head, my fingers tracing Joe's letter in my bag. "It's not about me. It's about all of us." The next day, the transit authority issued a public apology, and Greg was suspended pending a full investigation. The city buzzed with talk of reform, of treating veterans right. I sat on my porch that evening, my letters spread out, each one a piece of a life I'd fought to honor. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a ghost. I'd faced the system, the hate, the doubt, and I'd won, not just for me, but for every vet who'd been pushed aside. My war wasn't over, but I'd claimed this battle.